When your hotel room is your bedroom, and your living room, and your dining room, maybe you need more than a hotel room. Get an Airbnb and get more space.
Airbnb was a revelation when it was first launched by Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, and Nathan Blekozic. Hassle-free online booking, a variety of options, and being new and fresh boosted its popularity when it launched in 2008. Being able to review locations and guests seemed like a good idea in principle, but fast forward to 2023 and moving into 2024, Airbnb isn't what it once was. From service charges to cleaning fees, laborious checkout demands, as well as entire cities launching more of a crackdown on short-term rentals, something feels a bit off about Airbnb, and customers are showing their frustration both on social media and on where they spend their money. But why has Airbnb become so bad? Here's how it happened. When Airbnb was first launched as mattresses on the founder's floor, it was a revelation, a community-focused business where individuals could make money from their unused spare bedroom or second home that lay vacant. It was designed around the idea of having a host who could recommend local sites and attractions, if not in the next room, then living nearby. This offered travelers the chance to explore towns and cities as a local rather than as a tourist. However, when savvy people caught wind of how much money they could make, people started buying up units, houses, and apartments with the sole focus of listing them on Airbnb. Instead of being around the corner, the owners threw the keys in a lockbox 2,000 miles away, with the local attractions just found in a booklet on the coffee table. Today, there's almost zero interaction between the host and the guest, except when the cleaning doesn't go to plan. More on that later. Since 2015, the number of homes in the US on Airbnb has risen tenfold, from 150,000 to 1.5 million, becoming corporate, with large companies managing several units as a real estate enterprise rather than the spare room offering it once was. The rise of sites like AirBNB and Airbnb consultants shows how corporate Airbnb has become. Clearly, Airbnb were a high-growth company, so every year they wanted more guests and more hosts, and in chasing growth, they have found a number of flaws, difficulties, and downright shocking practices. What has perhaps kept Airbnb going is that the experience of staying in an Airbnb has changed quite slowly over the years, which means there hasn't really been a light bulb moment of how difficult and negative it has become. From a long list of checkout demands and cleaning requirements which seem counterintuitive to paying a cleaning fee, to things that are even worse and almost unimaginable, like hidden cameras in the bathrooms and last-minute cancellations, which ruin a holiday. With none of the hotel luxuries and no staff, guests are left to fend for themselves, tidy or risk a negative review. The rise of Airbnb has also had a ripple effect on the economy. During 2020, there was a boom in domestic travel, which saw many individuals and companies alike buy up short-term rental real estate. What that has done is driven up prices across the real estate market, particularly in tourist hotspots and city locations. Last year, New York, for example, had more Airbnb listings than apartments for sale. And it's clear that many things affect the housing market and Airbnb isn't solely to blame. However, opportunistic landlords buying up apartments where 4 nights on Airbnb covers their monthly mortgage doesn't help. Cities like New York as well as Amsterdam and Washington DC have started to crack down on these short-term rentals, with some cities requiring a license to operate and other cities forbidding licenses for second homes or multiple properties, or limiting the amount of days your unit can be rented for.
New York is going to begin enforcing a new law that regulates Airbnb rentals in New York. It happens today, and some say it could amount to an effective ban on short-term rentals.
Starting today, short-term rental hosts in New York, that's Airbnb or Booking.com, they're going to have to register with the city, and they have to comply with a new law that states you cannot rent out your entire apartment for less than 30 days, and hosts can only offer short-term rentals if they remain with their guests in the apartment.
New York has come down the hardest, with the host having to live in the apartment. No more than 2 guests are allowed to stay, and hosts have to register with the mayor's office. You might think this would cut down the amount of rooms on offer, but this has actually created a black market for rentals, with hosts offering their apartments on social media instead. Circling back to the business, Airbnb has always been a high-growth outfit. And what happens when you need to create the illusion of bigger profits to satisfy shareholders? Well, you cut costs. Airbnb have either significantly cut their customer service, or the increased number of hosts has meant that they are more inundated than ever. Superhosts used to get quick and effective customer support, but now, however, they are redirected to a call center in a cheaper country where concerns may get lost in translation. Some hosts are now looking to move away from Airbnb altogether after having to fend for themselves with little to no customer service with high fees. It brings us onto hotels and why they're growing in popularity again.
They look different online.
Jeez. Wow, that's a lot of rolls.
When you check into a hotel, you are treated like royalty. Origami towels are the norm, rose petals on the bed, complimentary upgrades, and in-room champagne to accompany your premium TV channels. Your room is cleaned at least once a day with fresh linen and new towels, and on checkout you leave your room how you like, often throwing towels on the floor to help the cleaning staff know what's been used. You hand over your keys and off you go, sailing into the sunset, or you leave your bag behind the reception desk and pick it up later that day before heading for the airport. Airbnb, on the other hand, is a totally different ballgame. Strip the bed, wash the sheets, hoover and sweep the floor, empty the fridge, and leave the abode cleaner than it has ever been in its existence. You do all of that and then get charged $20, $50, maybe even $100 for a cleaning fee. And you better hope you've done a good enough job, otherwise the host will label you as a terrible guest that doesn't clean up, making it harder for you to book a room in the future. The rise in cleaning fees is what has pushed many people to head for a hotel instead. Each host has the power to set their own cleaning fee, which varies wildly depending on location and listing. There is also strategy at play when it comes to pricing. Many guests search for cheaper properties, but bear in mind these prices don't include fees, so hosts are able to manipulate how they appear in the search function, offering a lower nightly rate, only to then cover the difference in price through a high cleaning fee instead. Airbnb is not all bad. You can often find Airbnbs that are cheaper than hotels, particularly if you're staying in a large group. Hen and stag parties might also prefer to be all in one house than across multiple rooms in a giant hotel. Airbnb are also updating their original rent-a-room model with Airbnb rooms, which emphasize affordability and relationships with the local, moving back towards their roots. The positive for Airbnb is that there isn't really any major competition, other than from hotels, and if you're traveling in a big group, you'll put up with the cleaning list to be able to stay in a big lodge or mansion altogether. On the other hand, there is a growing sense of frustration across the internet that people are growing sick and tired of having to do chores on their vacation, and would rather be treated like a king or queen in a hotel room instead. Do Airbnb care? Probably not by the sound of things. They beat expectations in Q3 of 2023, and they say that more guests are booking on Airbnb than ever before. If people really want to affect change, they have to take their money elsewhere. Just look at Bud Light.